Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Rob Thompson, GamePlanU today, as you could read here below the screen. I want to welcome everybody to our first show. You know that I've been, well, maybe you don't know, but I've been hosting my own podcast, Sports Biz Radio, for the last several years. And I wanted to rebrand one just for LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook, GamePlanU, our Facebook Live or a Facebook private group that I'm live in as well. So I'm not going to be able to see any comments right now. I don't have anybody producing the show but me. So if you do have comments, I will answer those comments. I'm going to be sticking up here a number that you can call. See that for technology. I'm also producing the show. So you can text me any questions that you have at 518-867-1117. Just leave me your name as well. Ask me the question that you have, and I'll be sure to try to get to it at some point during the show. But I started this show, and I'm going to tell you why. It's pretty easy. I wanted to be able to connect directly with my community that it took me about 9 years to build on here in my community of sports executives, career seekers, entrepreneurs, hustlers, scrappy solopreneurs. Those in the media industry, and generally folks through the years that I have met through my travels that are connected somehow to the sports industry primarily on a global level. And this show, although I may not do it every month, I'm going to try to do it every Monday at 6 p.m. East Coast Standard Time. I really want to be able to share as much information, and not just for me. After a while, you'll get bored of that. But from the guests I'm going to have on the show. So if you have been following Sports Biz Radio, you do know that I have interview with influencers, which has been going on now for a number of years on my website or on my YouTube channel, Sports Biz Radio. There's, close to 200 interviews on there, a lot of shows. So this is just another way for us to connect, another way for us to engage, and hopefully bring you information that you find relevant and interesting as best as I can. So fire away, text me any questions that you do have. But this show is primarily based around GamePlanU, and GamePlanU is a platform that I co-founded about 4, almost 5 years now, that connects startups, startovers, career seekers in the sports technology and lifestyle space with advisors, mentors, and investors. So this is generally for that audience, that community. So if that's something that's not of interest to you, I'm sorry. But hopefully you could gain something on it that if you do stay here. So a couple housekeeping things. Like I said, you could text me any questions. You could also DM me directly. Obviously, we're connected if you're watching this. You can leave comments below. Like I said, I can't answer them right now. But I will answer them once the show is over and get back to you with any questions that you do have on that. My goals, like I said, as far as the housekeeping piece is to be on here as frequently, as consistent as possible on Monday nights at 6 o'clock. Although, depending on guests that I may have shows on Tuesday nights as well. If you do watch Sports Biz Radio, you do notice that this is the same studio that I use at the University of New Haven's radio station, WNHU. So I am a full-time employee of the University of New Haven, which is my alma mater as an athletic development, which is I'm a fundraiser and business development, and then connecting the dots with alums and fellow teammates and friends and acquaintances, classmates that I have. So this is the broadcast studio from there. This is not something I set up in my house. It's too high tech for me. It would have been a kitchen table, although I do broadcast live from there. Anyways, so text me any questions that you may have. Leave comments below. I do have note cards, as you can see. I produce my own show. We're going to have guest appearances. So we'll have guest appearances from influencers in the industry, executives, people you may not have heard of before, because they might be entrepreneurs. They could be in the early stage startups, people that I find interesting, and I hopefully that you would find interesting as well. So we'll have guest appearances, and it's pretty much be one-on-one. If you do, sometimes I will invite you on the show. So if you have a point, or if I invited you on the show, I'll be able to email you the link, and you could jump on the show at any point. So GamePlanU, like I told you about, is a platform that we started 5 years ago or so or such. So it's GamePlanU.org, and we connect startups, startovers, career seekers with opportunities in the industry. We whether it's a job. We do have a career tab on there, or whether it's just inspiration, whether it's one-on-one coaching, whether it's consulting, whether it's business development that we help with as well. So all of those options are on that website if you go check it out. And we do have live events. So the big part of the big platform for GamePlanU is we host live events, startup weekends, and our last one that we hosted was down in Orlando at the USTA national campus, which is actually in Lake Nona. We had 12 really brave startups that sports technology and sports lifestyle startups that joined us down there. And they had 3 days of mindfulness workshops. Then there was a panel discussions with investors that gave them a little bit of an icebreaker and told them exactly what they're looking for, whether it's the jockey or the horse, from a startup perspective and a founder perspective. There was a ton of networking opportunities, and it was really a deep dive on their business and way that they could form collaborations with other folks. So basically, when you spend a weekend with like-minded individuals, it's not a conference, it's not a retreat, it's not just a demo day, it's all of those put together. So it is the GamePlanU weekend, which in and of itself, hopefully our goal is that in and of itself should be a brand. So GamePlanU weekend is coming up again. We enjoyed the first one so much, and we had such a great response from it, and interest and applications come in. So if you go to GamePlanU.org, and if you are an early stage startup in the sports technology or lifestyle space, you could apply for the 2.0 version. The event is going to be held at the former Florida Citrus Bowl, which is currently Camping World Stadium. That's the 28th through the 30th of May. There's plenty of time still to register, and we're still looking for our cohorts, and we're going to put together a good group down there. We'll have 3 or 4 investors, including the Citrus Bowl, who's also an investor group, and it should be pretty cool. So we got a question. Just give me your name. What is the best advice for changing careers? Oh man, that is a good one. Best advice for changing careers. Man, pivot. People pivot all the time. They definitely pivot from startups perspective, but pivoting in your career, depending on what resources you have. Meaning, are you married? Do you have kids? Do you have an obligation for mortgage? The one thing I could say about pivoting in your career is no one likes to go to work every day when you don't feel appreciated, right? I would say go to work for people that you like, that you're going to learn from, and that you know that you're going to be in a position to win. If there's a way to pivot in your career where you could test it out first, meaning if it's a side hustle or passive income, or you just kind of hit that roadblock and you want to completely change. Like if you were a sport management student and then you went out and you sold medical supplies because you're chasing the money and you didn't want to work the hours and low pay when you're young, well, that's the best time to do it. But if you get to that point where I completely want to pivot off of it, depending on what your resources are like, it's a tough one. It really is a tough one. You either got to ease right into it, or if you're going to jump all the way through. So I don't know, that's a hard one, but DM me some more questions and I could send you, I wrote a book on it, how to land a dream job if dad didn't own the team. That's not a plug for the book, but that has a lot of examples in there and how to position yourself to be prepared to make that jump. Here's another one. Thomas from Sports Pros USA. What do you think about sports rental business will correct itself over the next few years. My business is growing, but the bigger events seem to be done by guys who want to give things away too cheap. How do you attract retiring coaches and ADs for sales in the market? So, Thomas, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, I certainly remember you. The rental business is tough. Obviously, the big ones, the Matty Williams of the world, and all those folks are coming in, and if that's what you're talking about with the court business, and they start buying up all the courts out there, and they're able to scale it. I think aligning yourself with an agency, with a live event sports agency, whether it's MKTG or some of the other ones that do a lot of the activation within that space. For brands and obviously I think you're down in New Jersey. I think that's probably the best way to do it. At least you could pick up some higher profile events while you chip away at the AAU tournaments and the volleyball tournaments and the basketball tournaments and the one-offs. And then as far as your second part of that question is, how do I attract retired coaches and ADs for sales in my market? I think passive revenue and passive income is always a good way to position that, where they don't have to give up their day job either, where they could provide some finder's fees. Those guys, especially when that group of folks, especially at that point in their careers, when they're retired, they got good pensions and all that other good stuff. So they don't necessarily need to work that hard. I think some big incentives for them, whether that's trips and other incentivized programs, whether it's going to the national conventions and putting them on a little bit of a pedestal, because obviously their egos are big. So if that's just a referral program where it's a back end commission and a couple of conventions that are in good spots and some incentive on the back end too, I don't know. Maybe that's a way to kind of incentivize them. I don't know. So I hope that answered your question, Thomas. It's good to hear from you. Thanks. I appreciate you reaching out. Nick D'Onofrio. How you doing, Nick? What is your advice for a very early startup sports business that may be in a unique sector of the sports industry to obtain a partner and investor? And that's a great question. We talk a lot about this at our the sports biz, the GamePlanU weekends. And the investors had an interesting, when we did our panel discussion, our investors had a really great point. When the opening night, the investors that are there, we have a panel discussion. Basically, what are you looking for? What is the scope and range of investing that you do? And are you betting on the jockey, the horse? Is it the idea? Is it the sustainability? Is it the fact that you're already so you get the point, right? So we're kind of asking them those questions and making the founders who have to do a demo day in a couple of days, make them feel a little bit more comfortable, and they could kind of change their point of view. So both of them, and here's my point. I'm landing a plane here, Nick. Both of them at that point, at that last event that we did, said the same thing. Sometimes it's a little bit more important to find the right investor that gets your business, that can help you scale it without actually infusing any funding in to begin with. And what I mean by that is sometimes if you have an advisor who is also the investor and maybe gives you a little bit of seed, it could be $25,000, $30,000 just so you could get an MVP created, or you have some funding to create your back end and do a little traveling and go to some conventions and some business development stuff. But if you have someone that can open up a door for you, remember, if they cut you a check, now you got a boss. So, a lot of times you get out of doing your day-to-day job because you don't want a boss, but investors, you got a boss now, besides, your spouse and the bank and payroll and expenses. So I think finding the right partner, investor, who really gets your business, who counterbalances your strengths, and really understands and believes in you, and you have a very upfront, transparent conversation before you partner with them on, this may not go right. This may fall off the rails. We may lose some money. I'm going to lose a lot of time. I'm going to lose some money that I put into it. And you may also, as an advisor or as an investor. And if we're prepared to do that together, where we can make money together off of both of our skill sets, my idea that I created, you're helping me take that idea to the next level, And if you're both willing to put in the time, the effort, and maybe some resources together, then let's go and manage those expectations to begin with. As long as you feel like you're both in it to make money together, not off each other. If you think you're going to make money off an investor because they're going to stroke you $250,000 and then you're going to use it for payroll and you're going to use it to blow through and you're not probably, you may not, it's easy when you get that money. Sometimes you don't treat it as your own and it's hard to do and it happens a lot. You know, you put a value on your business that it's not really worth that much and now you're struggling. So it could become uncomfortable. Nick, I hope that I answered that. I don't know if I just rambled too much about that one. But anyways, I hope that worked out for you. But again, DM me if you have any more questions on that. If my rambling, if Rob Rant made any sense at all, just let me know. So I got another question. How do I register for the, and is it too late to register for as a startup founder for the next weekend, the next startup weekend? It is not. No, we're still in the process of evaluating all of our startups, all of our founders. We have roughly 24 spots available, and we're probably close to 50% already there. So it's May 28th and 30th. So there are some advantages getting in earlier with being a guest on this show or being a guest on the Sports Biz Radio podcast as well. So investors and your cohorts get to know who you are and getting the word out there. You can use that content to blast it out there as well. So if you are an early stage, mid-stage startup and you want to come down for that weekend and be inspired and network and be introduced to investors and advisors and people that can help you with your business, whether that's a collaborative effort to go through our workshops and our roundtables, and just overall collaboration. There's so many stories that happened down in Orlando with groups that are now merging. And you know, the time that we had down there was pretty special. So anyways, so there is still time. So if you are interested in applying, please do so. So just leave your names. If you're going to text me, just leave your name so I could read that off for you in a website if you want me to drive some traffic over there to you. So how do you truly know you have a good idea? So many successful people say not to listen to outside opinions. A startup can be doing good, but others still don't believe in it. Or a startup is not doing well, but you still believe it can work. So does validation come strictly from yourself or others? Validation comes from the market. So if you know you have a good idea and you put it out there, meaning that you're just not telling your friends and family and the guy sitting next to you in the plane or a bar, you're putting it out there. You actually have a business that you press go. Your website is up. You're firing it off, and people are responding to you in a positive way, which means you are selling them something. That's your validation. That's the only validation that matters. The validation of what your friends and family and you, nothing else matters. If you have a good idea, you have to execute on that idea. And with the tools that are out there right now, just like this, LinkedIn, Instagram, website development that you could do on your own through Weebly, podcasts, create some buzz, right? Gain an audience, gain a community. They're going to tell you whether that idea is a good one or not by how? By buying stuff from you, period. That's the only thing that matters. So, you know, getting to that point, you got to test it. You got to test it. You got to test it. You got to pivot if it doesn't work. You got to change your price points. You got to change your benefits, your service, your product, your delivery, your marketing. You constantly have to work on that part of it. And if you've never had to do that before, it's a challenge. You have to be able to watch others. So the beautiful thing about this platform here is you're able to meet other people, right? And you're able to see what they're doing. Right now, this podcast, right? I love doing it. I love connecting the dots. I'm pushing my product in my startup weekends, my consulting business. That's what it's doing, but I'm giving you something in return of value for free, right? The marketplace originally told me that I had this GamePlanU was really to help connect career seekers with jobs. I realized they weren't going to spend any money to do that, you know, whether they're already in college or coming out of it. You know, I'm doing webinars. I'm offering free guidance and coaching. Couldn't find a financial model that worked. What I did realize that a lot of people were interested in startups or working for a startup or being employee number 3 or number 4 in a unicorn, or they got a great idea like he had, and they want to put it out there. So I realized my value was I got more value there because people were willing to pay for it. People were willing to pay to come to our GamePlanU startup weekends. People are willing to pay a consulting fee to me and me being an advisor. People are willing to pay that. It took me a while to get there. I wrote a book. I did podcasting. I'm doing this, but it took me a while to get there. So it was frustrating, but I kept with it. I knew there was something there. I kept on pivoting. I kind of got to the point where I knew I could bring value somewhere. And yeah, it took a lot of time. I got a full-time job. This is something that I do after hours at night, and I love it. And if I put my mind to it, and I did put my mind to it 100%, it could 100% be a full-time job for me if I wanted to, but I don't. I like being in higher ed, and I like doing this without having to run a business day to day or manage anybody except for Mike. But I don't really have to manage Mike, our project manager, because he's a rock star. So that's probably as simple as that. How's that for a rant? Rob rant number 2. Keep on fire away with your questions. Please put your name in there. Do you have a pitch? Do you have to pitch at the startup weekend? No, you do not. So the weekend in and of itself is we're going to have a group of cohorts that are going to go through a little bit of an accelerator process. So it's just reviewing pitch decks, getting a podcast, getting all your due diligence ready, figuring out budgets, what your pro forma is like having everything ready to get in front of investors, right? So, but there's another group of people that are interested in this and are attending these events because they want to be around other like-minded investors. Now, they may not be ready to ask for money. They may have just the idea, but they want to be involved and figure out their idea a little bit more, find collaborators, talk to investors. They want to learn. They want to be in the same room and same space as these like-minded people because they're inspiring. There's a great amount of energy. If you've ever been to a conference before, it's not a lot of workshops, although we do have them. We'll do a lot of sprint solutions, which are solutions that our startups are bringing down, or problems that are challenges that our startups are bringing down with them. It could be branding, it could be marketing, and then as a group, we will help those startups figure out some solutions, and then build some mental muscle memory and exercising on how do we help ourselves? What are we going to learn from that as well? So it's not just listening to myself and other people talk about these things. It's an immersive experience. So you don't have to be down there to pitch. You could be a serial entrepreneur, a solopreneur doing this as passive income in your life, that you want to come down and be supported by a group of people that are in the same space as you. And I can tell you, doing it at Camping World Stadium in Orlando, it's going to be amazing. So, yeah, that's next show is going to be March 16th, 6 p.m. Although if I do have it earlier, I will let everybody know. It's definitely going to be something that I will keep on rotation. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to everybody for texting me your questions. I will go back and answer some of those comments that I assume are in there. Text me anytime. Reach out to me. DM me with any questions. Again, go to GamePlanU.org. There, all the information is on there. Just click on the event page. If you go the event tab above, if you go down, there's an agenda that you could fill, that you could request for the agenda for the weekend. And again, there is tickets. If you're not pitching, if you're not part of the cohort group of 24, there is a special rate. It's a buy one, get one. It's called the Ultimate Hall Pass for the weekend down there. All the meals are included. The workshops are included, swag bags, all the nighttime activities. You're going to be right inside the legendary Citrus Bowl Stadium. We're going to have wellness programs, meditation, health and wellness in the mornings. So it's a executive entrepreneur retreat. And I know I'm talking about this to death. So if you're interested, please, please, please go. It's May 28th through 30th. It's 3 days long. If you are a sports startup, sports lifestyle, if you're an event agency, if you're in fan engagement, if you're in gaming, gambling, new media, athlete performance, youth sports, sponsorship, ROI, and activation. Those are all categories that our investors are looking at. Those are categories that I know pretty well as well. So that's pretty much it. I appreciate everybody that joined, that asked me questions today. I'm Rob Thompson. This is GamePlanU today. We will be back. We're on LinkedIn Live. That's my number. Text me if you have any other questions. DM me. We'll see you next time. Hope to see you down in Orlando. That just sounded so damn cheesy, but you know what? If you don't promote yourself, no one else will, or your project. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great week and get in the game. Will you please? Take care.